Good evening and welcome to Women to Women. I'm Carol Paz, your hostess, and as always we have a very special guest that I'm going to introduce to you in just a few moments. But I'd like to thank our sponsors, okay? CarsonNow.org, which is the best place to go on the internet for the latest breaking news, for all the local news here in Carson City. We'd also like to thank Apex SCF, which teaches the latest methods for saving your life at home, at work, or on campus. And we'd also like to thank the Nevada Appeal and the Record Courier. And they always encourage us to shop locally, our small businesses, as well as to look for their special coupon books in their Sunday editions. So, let's meet our new guest. Jennifer, I'd like to welcome you to Women to Women.
Pleasure. Thank you so much, Carol.
All right. We have Jennifer Herald, who is the Vice President and the Area Manager for Bank of the West here in Carson City. So I have to just get to know you, okay, Jennifer, on the air as much as possible, because that means our viewers get to meet you and know who you are too.
Of course.
Jennifer, I always start out by asking our guests, are you a local Carson City native?
I am a transplant.
Okay.
But I like to think of myself as slightly local, as I've been here for almost 13 years. I relocated from Southern California, Long Beach, back in 1999. Although, I have to say,
all right,
my aunt, my great aunt, moved to Runestroth, which is a little area in Gardnerville, before there was a Gardnerville. So I think she built her house, dug a well back 50 years ago, and I spent my childhood there.
How wonderful. When you were thinking about, or your family was thinking about transferring from Southern California into the Northern Nevada regions, what do you suppose were their reasons for doing that?
You know, Lake Tahoe, the beauty.
Oh.
We spent big Irish Catholic family. We had our family reunions there every year. So everyone from the East Coast, from Colorado, from Southern California, that's where we spent 2 weeks of our summer together for our family time.
How special. No wonder. Has everybody moved to Lake Tahoe or moved to Nevada because of those reunions?
Everybody but my sister and one aunt. 1 out of 7 children stayed in Southern California.
Wow, what a story. Big Irish Catholic family. Well, you have been here much longer than I have been here, but there's something about Carson City and Northern Nevada that captures the spirit, captures your heart, inside and out. And I want to know, Jennifer, as you were growing up as a young girl, what were your interests? Did they ever involve numbers? Did they ever involve math? Did they ever involve reading? What did you do as a youngster?
You know, no numbers, no math.
Okay.
Not the favorite subject, science, no. I was a history girl and I was a reader. I was reading English literature novels by the 5th grade.
Me too.
I was a big fan of the Bronte sisters. I was a big fan of,
Classic.
Jane Eyre and
Classic works.
Wuthering Heights. And I read The Stand by 6th grade, Stephen King. I love Stephen King as a younger.
Yes.
So much of a reader, I would say. Imagination, that kind of thing.
When you say you're from a large Irish Catholic family, how many brothers and sisters do you have?
I only have one other sister, but my mother was the oldest of 7. So her younger brothers and sisters, although there was an age disconnect, it's still one big family.
Yes, yes. So let me ask you this. In order to become a vice president and an area manager of a local bank, okay, in this case Bank of the West, what kind of preparation or when did this interest to banking develop?
That's a good story.
Okay, I don't know it.
Back in the late 2000s, I was a medical staff supervisor for a general surgeon here in Carson City. He'd been a surgeon for 10, 15 years, solo practice. And I had the opportunity of being a nurse in a capacity, not a legal nurse with an RN, but as far as he was concerned, I was able to help facilitate care for this individual. And she was an executive for Bank of America. He was getting ready to change his practice, in which he retired shortly thereafter, and I had an opportunity to go into banking. She recruited me, and the job was customer service, yet 6 months later I was a branch manager for Bank of America.
So you must have really, so to speak, lapped it up. You loved it.
Exactly. And I think the connection between medical and finance, if you will, is wanting to create something, wanting to help people, want to make things better. So what is in it for me, as in working for the doctor in the practice, was people came in sick and not feeling good, and they left our office 100% feeling great. People come in to a banking center, a financial institution, and I'm able to facilitate a small business loan and start their dreams of being a sole proprietor, a first-time home buyer.
You're opening doors.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the connection is just helping people, regardless of what the career may be.
Okay, so your basic experience then came from a medical practice, a medical office, and you weren't an RN per se, but the particular physician that you worked with and you worked for allowed you to really expand in that office and to help him in ways that he knew they were legal ways, but they were also learning ways, learning to work with the public. What do you think? And I know that working with the public it's difficult, it's challenging, but very rewarding. And at this point in time, now not where you become vice president or area manager of the bank, but at the point when you were there in the medical offices, what did you find was the most helpful way to work with the public that you remember and that you took it later on into another career?
You know, I'd have to say treating people as if it was my grandmother, actually. And I use that today in banking. I would not want someone to disservice my grandmother and give her wrong information. Same thing in the medical field. How would I feel if that was a family member? And that's how I treated them.
That's great to hear. The customer service aspect of so many of our industries or of our corporate world or even of our small businesses is gasping like it's on the way out, okay? So that's very refreshing to hear from someone who knows that it works and that it needs to be applied for success anywhere and is doing so. So this Bank of America executive lured you out of the medical office?
You know, she presented an opportunity, kind of like dangled a carrot. If I was ever interested, there was an opportunity. So I had to pursue it. I was interested.
Okay.
Funny, growing up as a little girl, and you go with your mother to the bank, and I think it was called Crocker Bank. It was back in the day. I used to play with the brochures, and in my bedroom, I would play banker.
Okay.
I was 5 and 6 years old. It was I like to play businesswoman.
Yes.
Interesting how you don't think back of those things, but I did.
When you recall, those memories come up, and they did have an impact. They did have an influence on you. Let me ask you this. Was there something particular about this Bank of America executive that, whether in her appearance or in her approach, in her sharing of professional personality, what was it that struck you about her? Because she was more or less a silent spokesman in many ways for the banking industry.
Absolutely. You know, I think the fact that she was an executive, she just wasn't at an entry-level customer service position, and that she thought I'd be a really good fit for the company. Something about the way she carried herself, the way she spoke, her articulation of information, and even though, again, we're in a surgical field, so you're not feeling good and you get cut open and we make you feel better. Okay. I just remember how warm she was and genuine she was, and
confident.
Absolutely.
With her insightfulness about you. There was something that had to have said to you, Jennifer, this is a woman who's assessing me in a really positive manner, and she is coming from an executive position, and she apparently feels that I have an opportunity or a chance in that line, whether it's in banking or some other line, but she notices something. And those are special people that appear in our path every once in a while.
That's right.
Okay, there was a reason for her to be there. I always choose to think that way. And you were willing to listen and to appreciate what she was saying, what she was observing. And not all of us do that.
True.
It can just go
yeah.
right by us. We miss it, and there we miss that opportunity.
Absolutely.
It may come back again, but not for a while, perhaps, until we have learned and matured a little bit more deeply to appreciate what someone is saying to us.
I agree. Absolutely.
Okay, so how long was it between when you left the medical profession and you went into banking? Did you have to do any preparation for the banking?
No. You would think, yeah. When I interviewed for the position, again, it was customer service. I expected it to be a teller position where you cash checks, take deposits, customer service.
Right.
But no, I was given a desk job, and I was called a banker, in which I would develop relationships with my clients.
Okay.
Build them, expand them, gather them, that kind of thing.
So you were one of the first people that the outsider, that the clients came in and met and talked with. And first impressions are extremely important.
See, and I think she knew that. I think that's what she was going for, placing me in that branch. But I had no idea. And that particular company did extenuating testing. They put you before, at the interview process, you went through, and of which case there is arithmetic,
Right.
mathematical equations, analytical graphing, statistical, a lot about integrity, a lot about ethics, personal ethics.
Okay.
And so an hour of this very grueling testing, and then if you passed, you were allowed to take an interview, and if you didn't, then they said goodbye, parted ways.
Okay, so what you're saying, in essence, to our viewers out there, and what you're saying to everyone who's maybe thinking, this is food for thought on my plate. Will I have to go back and go to college? The answer apparently is not necessarily.
Correct.
Another question would be, do I need to know basic math? And that answer would be, yes, you do.
Of course.
Okay, yes, you do. Do I need to have an assertiveness, a positive assertiveness, that I like people, and I show that I like them, but I also need to be able to interpret internally, internalize, can we do business with this person? Is this a good risk? Is this someone that we need to get to know?
Exactly.
Okay.
And I find more and more companies are using assessments. There's a mortgage company I worked for that did the same thing. They did an IQ test, they did an ethics test. My husband, who works for a company here in Carson City, had to pass standardized testing. However, I feel as a hiring manager in my role, I don't look for competencies as much as I look for behaviors.
We're going to come back to that. Behaviors.
Yeah.
What are some of the best behaviors and what are some of the worst? Or what are some of the ones that leave question marks? And I think in the business world and any environment that we find ourselves in where we're going to be interacting with people, behaviors often tell the truth.
Absolutely.
We'll come back to that. Don't go away.
Apex SEF provides cutting-edge, hands-on training that effectively addresses today's threats of violence.
The Apex Stay Alive course teaches proven methods for personal protection and attack countermeasures that can be applied in any environment. In your home, at the workplace, or on campus, Apex will teach you the necessary skills to stay alive, including how to recognize and react to an active shooter scenario.
If you knew you had to fight for your life tomorrow, would you train today? Contact us now to sign up for a class in your region.
Hi, I'm Stephen Lincoln with CarsonCityHomes.com, Carson City's original online real estate resource.
At CarsonCityHomes.com, you get effective and easy-to-use tools to help you select your next home today. With our easy-to-use website, you can search listings throughout Northern Nevada and narrow the results by selecting every facet, quirk, and quality you desire. Visit CarsonCityHomes.com.
Report of wildland fires threatening structures.
When disaster strikes, will you be ready? Information is essential during a disaster. That's why we use the latest technology to keep you informed. When you register, you'll receive emergency alert messages on all your devices and phone numbers at once. Go to ReadyWashoe.com. Click on the Get Message icon, then just fill out this quick form. It's easy. Don't get caught unprepared. When disaster strikes, be ready.
Are you looking for a healthier lifestyle? A more nutritious diet? Do you care about quality? If your answer is yes, or if you are just curious, come into Villa Basque Deli and Cafe right here in Carson City, Nevada. Discover fine Portuguese extra virgin olive oils, vintage balsamic vinegars, and a wide assortment of international health teas provided by distributor Carpa Nevada LLC. In addition to these terrific items, Villa Basque is also the home of Pete's famous Basque chorizo, handmade on the premises from Pete's secret family recipe. Satisfy your culinary curiosities. Don't delay.
Welcome back to Women to Women. Again, I'm Carol Paz, your hostess, and we are with Jennifer Herald that we're going to return to because she has some really keen insight on behaviors. But before we do that, I'd like to thank Villa Basque Deli and Cafe, home of Pete's famous Basque chorizo right here in Carson City, as well as Carpa Nevada LLC, importer of fine Portuguese olive oils, balsamic vinegar, and international teas. So let's return now to Jennifer. Jennifer, we are talking about insights that you have, that you've been gifted with, that over the years have developed from one environment into the next that has made you, I would say, pretty successful as a customer service representative, vice president area bank manager for Bank of the West here in Carson City. And I'd like to get back, and because I think this is so important for women, all of our listeners and viewers out there, to recognize that how we present ourselves and the behaviors that we give off in interviews can affect very much where we go or the paths that we take or the encouragement that we get, the observations that we receive from other people to help guide us into areas of our interest and success. You realize that nursing was not where you were headed, even though the surgeon that you worked with was all for it, okay? And a woman bank executive for Bank of America recognized and helped you develop your thinking into the banking world. Now, when you interview in your position, in one of the roles that you have, Jennifer, what are the behaviors that you pick up on right away, some of which perhaps we can do something to change? They come across as negative, but they can be reversed. And ones that are very positive, that lead you as an interviewer and perhaps as a potential hirer, that's a person that we can use here very well. What are those behaviors?
You know, throughout the years of interviewing different people for different positions, I've gone away from actually a Q&A dialogue, and I do something very similar to this. We just have a conversation.
Right.
And you're looking for positive motivation, different vocabulary words that may use that don't necessarily dictate education per se,
right.
But a more positive, happy person is going to use words that reflect that. Their eyes are going to light up. There's going to be a smile. There's good posture, and that inner confidence comes out without having to be overt. A valence.
Right, or a put on.
Right.
A fake.
Exactly.
It comes out naturally.
Yeah.
And I think that to encourage our viewers out there, some of that requires an experience with people.
Absolutely.
And it requires an evaluation of ourselves. Well, how did I do on that? Gee, compared to this other person that's being interviewed, I heard some things that maybe I should think about too. I should think, where do I fit in? Where do I need to work on that a bit more? What are some negatives that come across sometimes in interviews that handicap the person who's being interviewed?
You know, I would say a lot of it is, again, denoting to the negative. And you'd be surprised how people talk poorly upon previous management or previous relationships. And yes, that's life. That's happened. We all have experiences like that. But I wouldn't bring that up in an interview as directly.
Or bring it along with you at all.
Right, exactly.
It's baggage you don't need.
Right, you don't. You know, you separate your relationship for personal reasons. You need growth and another opportunity. You don't need to talk poorly of other companies or other business people. And I think
Right.
that right away, right there, kind of says, oh, yeah, you're not too happy, are you? And are you going to talk about me? So
That's
yeah.
right, that's right. And all of this is very helpful to the listener and to the viewer out there. Now, this is a question that's burning inside of me. We've all heard of the glass ceiling for females, not just in the world of banking, but in the corporate world overall, and sometimes in just regular jobs, whether we are working at a gas station, okay, in the deli part of it, or behind the cash register, if we're working in a shoe store or a department store. And just for the sake of our viewers, okay, and making sure that we're all on the same page here, in the banking world, how do they define a glass ceiling?
You know, it's very, very similar. The majority of the entry-level, lower management positions in banking, finance, and I've worked for major banks as well as a smaller community bank, are women.
Okay.
All upper executives are male.
Now, you're in the upper executive. A vice president? No.
Oh, no.
Oh, no. Okay.
Lower level management.
Lower level management. So are you saying to me, Jennifer, that that glass ceiling still exists?
Absolutely.
How do we crash through it?
Yeah, no, that's right. We continue our education. We
Okay.
continue to promote within ourselves, support each other. One of the neat things Bank of the West has is a program called the Women Connection, and it's just for women in business. And our upper executives get together and they panel and they bring in guest speakers to motivate and encourage all. It's not just for women, you could be either
Right.
or. To pursue your career and pursue your home life and your charity and your volunteer work and be successful.
Okay.
And
Excuse me for interrupting, but I'm thinking, okay, I have seen you at special interest groups, okay, outside of the banking world, and one of those is fish.
absolutely.
What drew you to fish?
Yeah, no, the executive director has a little bit of charisma in that. And I was there on a banking relationship,
Okay.
looking for fish to see what their needs were. They weren't my client. And he again said, Jennifer, you need to join our organization. And we'd love to have someone who's positive and upbeat
And servicing all areas of life that people need help in.
Absolutely, and not just in Carson City, but in 4 different counties. And you know, it really hit home because I grew up with a single mother, and I grew up poor. You know, it wasn't that I didn't watch TV because I didn't want to. We didn't have one.
Okay.
I grew up with no telephone. We grew up with no vehicle. You want to talk about the stories of walking to the laundry? I had that.
Been there, done
yeah,
that, yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
So giving back to the community and
Yes.
having that myself was something that meant a lot to me.
And you have forged that relationship based upon eyewitness accounts
Exactly.
of living it. You've walked the walk. And now when you talk, it has bearing, it has foundational truth to it, it has hope. Hope.
Absolutely.
That is so interesting. I didn't know that about you, Jennifer, and I still have this question inside of me. If we're talking about women motivating women through professional organizations, international speakers, one of my questions would be, how did these women who come and share the breaking of the glass ceiling, perhaps in France, perhaps in Italy, Canada, how do you think they did it? Was it through more education? Was it through not becoming frustrated, persevere, stay at it? What is it that a woman has to be able to do professionally in the world of banking to draw the attention of that male conclave up there? Does her work shine? I mean, is it just so automatic that those men, those top executives, should see it and do see it, that they say, we need her on board up here?
Exactly, and I think that's what it is. It is women who are able to juggle, because now we have a lot more on our plates than we did in a different generation.
Definitely.
Because we're trying to raise children and have a home life and have a successful marriage and have a career and still, make it to Little League by 4 o'clock and dinner on the table at 6 o'clock. We're still trying to do that, and I think they recognize that we don't have anxiety attacks. We're able to meet our deadlines. Our work is clean. Our work is good. We're able to foster growth in the business. And what is unique about women, maybe more so than our counterparts, is our nurturing aspect to us that we can inspire people. That's where executives are different maybe than another level of management, is that we can motivate other people to want to be better. And women, I think...
It's a natural instinct in us.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
because that's something that's within our own gender and how we're raised and what we're all about. And
how we're wired.
Exactly.
How we're wired. In other words, you have shared, okay, you have family, you have a husband. And I'm picking up on that, okay, from our conversation.
Absolutely.
So I'm saying you must have a spouse who really espouses, if you will, okay, that play on words. He encourages you to be who you are as a professional, but he really appreciates the role of wife and mother, that you have a home together. And that takes a balancing act. And it takes experience with all of those things that you are juggling to really not separate and fly apart.
Yeah.
And say, you know what, I can only focus on this banking career. Well, actually, what makes you who you are to a great extent is your motherhood, your experiences in working with children, talking to children, advising them, caring for them through all the hurts and the pains, and talking with a spouse through all the hurts and pains that marriages can often, have to deal with. Those are challenges, everyday challenges. So it does bring a uniqueness to a female.
And that's what we have to offer to break our glass ceiling. That's how we're going to reach those upper levels. Of course, we have to wait for that generation to separate.
Pass on.
Exactly.
Well, but also, it's so important to know what the men within their 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, some of these CEOs, okay, male CEOs, how do they think? Because I think that a man likes to have logic used with him. And a reasoning ability within a woman plays such a big role in getting that male counterpart to think about what you're saying, how you're saying it, and the respect that you bring to the conversation with him. And I've never been a feminist per se, because I think there's always going to be a certain tension between males and females. That's a given. But I think we can go a long way in easing the anxiety and the tension that sometimes males feel if we are a threat in any way to them. And that's up to us to lower that anxiety level.
That's right, and we can identify it. I mean, instantly you know when you walk into the room who your alpha or who's the queen or to a worker bee or whatever stereotype analogy you want to use. But you generally can do that, and you can through vocabulary and body actions just make it a more calming interaction, and then you can collaborate your talents and be that much more stronger.
I would thoroughly agree with that. And I want to say thank you, Jennifer, so much for offering, okay, to all of us as women and as to men, the behaviors that we need to think about, the positive ones that we can bring forth almost any time, and leave the negatives behind. And that is a service to not only the customers, but it's a service to our family, our friendship circles, and to the career paths that we're hoping to pursue. And I love it that you were aware that even though others thought you should be a nurse, someone came along in the nick of time to say, come on over here, I see the gifts in you. So, and you were able to pull those relational gifts from the medical office and working with people to bring down their anxiety level to the same office on its in banking.
Exactly.
Yes,
Basic
yes.
skills.
You're going to be a success no matter where you go.
Thank you, Carol.
Okay, and we thank you so much for joining us this evening. Remember, we'll be back next week, every Thursday from 7 to 7:30. We hope to see you then. Have a good evening. Good night.